know it's all in the power of your imagination. If you can see the invisible, you can do the impossible. So stretch yourself. Take yourself to the next level. Come on, come on, come on. Reach a little higher. Dig a little deeper. Go a little further. Come on, come on, come on. Come on. Reach a little higher. Dig a little deeper. Go a little further. Don't stop. Don't stop. Come on. Yeah. Come on.
There's a blessing waiting on you.
Come on. Blessings are coming your way. Go a little further. Don't stop.
You gotta reach.
Till you get your dream. Don't stop. Get your dream. But till you get your dream, come on.
Let's get it, y'all.
I look in the mirror and I like what I see. Girl, a strong, beautiful black woman staring back at me. One who's seen a lot of pain and had her share of sorrow, but who never gave up hope for a brighter tomorrow. I've been lied to, cheated on, stolen from, and hidden. But it just made me stronger, and I refuse to quit. That's right. And though I've been tempted, I refuse to stoop to their level. Don't go down there. I rose above that nonsense and made a liar of the devil. All right now. The devil who said I wasn't good enough, cute enough, or worthy of love. I kicked his butt with divine power from above. Power that says I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. All right. And brought me out of darkness so that I could see that I'm smart, I'm beautiful, I'm a child of the King. Abundant love for me, he came to bring. Oh yes, when I look in the mirror, I love what I see. She's looking good. That strong, beautiful black woman, that woman is me.
.7 WTCC. Good morning. Welcomes to the Black Love Experience right here on WTCC. Well, America wants us to stay asleep. Now, here's the thing. I know people are pointing the finger at Florida specifically, and they should. But understand how these things start. You know, it always starts with some legislative action or some policy change that takes place in one place, and then other places follow suit. So don't think for 1 minute that this is just Florida's problem. Don't think for 1 minute that this is not going to spread to other parts of the nation. And matter of fact, it already has, because you got other states that have passed similar laws and are promulgating and planning to pass similar laws. The mantra of these folks are, we must fight the woke. Not too long ago, being woke was something that was positive. I'm awake, woke from the slumber, from being in a malaise or a slumber, and accepting the status quo. Now all of a sudden, woke is a bad word. Fight the woke culture. You have white politicians all over, and some so-called brown politicians who are talking about fighting the woke. Tulsi Gabbard woke culture. You know, she left the Democrat Party, she said, because she wanted to fight against wokeness. They want to fight wokeness in school. They want to fight wokeness in businesses, wokeness in government agencies. And Ron DeSantis took it to the next level. And he said, we could never surrender to the woke. And here's the thing, it wasn't just rhetoric. It wasn't just an empty threat. He engineered and signed into law the Stop Woke Act. And woke, the acronym WOKE that they use, is a title that precisely captures what he and the architects of this draconian racist law aim to do: to stop people in Florida from speaking out in ways that challenge racism. Okay? It leverages penalties, including firing teachers, firing educators, teachers, and administrators, taking away state funding from educational institutions for violations, or what they say, for intentionally vague yet broad speech and viewpoints. Conversations about racism. Yeah, if you're having conversations about racism, whether it's in school, whether it's in private industry, if you get government funding, we can pull your funding. If you're talking about racism, it's trying to bully even private industries who have DEI programs, diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, and anything of that nature. If you get any public funds, you better watch yourself talking about that DEI stuff. Because we get wind of you talking about DEI, we get wind of you fighting against racism, we're going to take your money from you. We're going to sanction you. So they want to silence all conversations about race. They want to undeniably damage the quality of education received by any student attending public institutions in Florida. And so the Legal Defense Fund, the American Civil Liberties Union, the ACLU, and other organizations filed a lawsuit challenging the law, and we're trying to get a preliminary injunction to halt the legislation. And it basically argues that the Stop Woke Act is unconstitutional and discriminatory. And we can definitely see that it is. Because the recent act of banning African American history, did they ban European history? No. Did they ban Asian American history? No. Did they ban anybody else's history? No. But we want to ban African American history because we don't want y'all to learn about the history of white supremacy, racism, and anti-black bigotry in America. Because when you teach African American history, you can't teach it without talking about that. When we teach European history, we can just lie and pretend it didn't exist. And the reason they made a bad word on woke is, you know, the reality is, to be woke means to be black, you know, to be conscious, to black and conscious, to be conscious of your blackness, conscious of in the origins of woke. That's what it meant. And then it morphed into something broader because then white folks started claiming that they were woke, um, um, that they were aware of the history of America, of the racist history of America. Um, and so to use the word woke has spread throughout all sectors of progressive liberal movements to fight against a white supremacist system. The term stay woke, keep your eyes open, stay woke. The world discovered this term about woke, black people's awareness of their history, their power to resist injustice. So it made woke, a desirable term until white supremacists got a hold of it. And of course, they tried to flip it into something that it's not. Now, all of a sudden, to be woke is to be racist against white people. You see how this thing works? To be woke is to be racist against white people. They want to flip the whole conversation about racism. And they want to make racism in America about white folks. Not about what it really is. They want to pretend that in America, white folks are the people that are discriminated against. They are the ones that are oppressed. They are the ones who need to be protected. That is high level gaslighting. But that's what they do. That's what they do. Malcolm said it a long time ago. They'll call you racist for fighting their racism. I don't know how many of these non-melanated people across America through social networks call me a racist. I mean, I'm called a racist at least 100 times every day. I'm not exaggerating. And those of you who follow me know this to be true. I mean, every single day, by scores of white people. You're racist. You're one of the most racist people in America. You're racist. I'm looking at these pale-skinned folk like, y'all, are y'all serious? Y'all serious? I mean, these right-wing, Trump-loving patriots, Jews will not replace us, and anti-woke folk calling people racist. I mean, next level gaslighting on steroids. That's what they do. That's what they do. They flip the script. And then, as much as they always talk about black folk having a so-called victim mentality, you can't have more of a victim mentality than these melanemic folks who are pretending that there's an attack on whiteness, that they are the ones who are the actual victims, to the point where they have to pass laws to protect themselves. We don't want our children being taught in school that they're bad people. Ain't nobody teaching your children that they're bad people. They're teaching your children the reality of racism in America. Ain't got nothing to do with them being bad people. Now, if they want to participate in the oppression of black people, yeah, they are bad people. And that's what y'all really afraid of, because that's what y'all teach them at home. Boy, I'm telling you, um, um, when people during the civil rights movement began saying Black Power, all of a sudden it became a term that people equated with communism and anti-white sentiment. It's like we just keep going around in the same circle over and over again. You know, the Black Panthers and everybody else were communists because they were saying Black Power. You know, they were anti-white. Um, Same thing happened when Black people started saying Black Lives Matter. You know, it became an anti-white sentiment. And so all of a sudden, well, Blue Lives Matter. All lives matter. Anytime you speak in the affirmative about blackness, white folks get offended. That somehow by humanizing Black people, it's an affront to white society. That if you speak about Black people as if they're human beings who deserve respect, who deserve to be treated fairly, who deserve to be treated with humanity, that somehow that's an affront on white society. That is somehow anti-white. To speak of Black people in human terms, how dare you? How dare you? You know, I mean, how dare you do that? And so they immediately move into action. And so since wokeness was associated with an awareness of Black society's oppression at the hands of white folk, all of a sudden the movement began that they had to stop wokeness. So now woke is a derisive term. It's a derisive stand-in for diversity, inclusion, empathy, and Blackness. So when legislators pass a law to stop woke, when they pass a Stop Woke Act, in light of this nation's true history, well, really in light of world history, as well as the common understanding and meaning of wokeness, what are they really saying? What are they really saying? Well, what it really is, it's a nefarious attack on truth, on history, on public education, that's masked by an acronym mocking Black colloquialism. You know, the details of the law and the story behind this passage bear out this conclusion. It was passed against the will of a broad cross-section of Florida residents and students who testified to legislators about the harm it would cause in the state and to their community if it was passed. They spoke against the effects it would have to challenge injustice. They still passed it. And under this Stop Woke law, educators and institutions in Florida are restricted out of fear from freely teaching students about many of the events and people who make up the history of this country. There's some places in America right now where you can't teach about Martin Luther King Jr. Matter of fact, that's Florida. Is one of them. Here's the thing, y'all. This is the audacity of whiteness. The audacity of whiteness is, watch this, Ron DeSantis tweeting a Martin Luther King Jr. quote. I promise you, you can't make this stuff up. He tweeted an MLK Jr. quote on Martin Luther King holiday on Monday, when it's illegal to teach about Martin Luther King Jr. in Florida schools. And then 3 days later, banned the teaching of African American history. You can't make this stuff up. This mayonnaise dripping troglodyte, this virulent, racist scumbag. If y'all don't like my language, turn the radio off. Tweeted an MLK quote. Let me find it. I gotta find it because y'all not gonna believe me. He tweeted out an MLK quote on Martin Luther King holiday, y'all. The governor of a state that has made it illegal to teach about MLK in Florida schools. Okay? He tweeted an MLK quote. Yeah, here it is. So DeSantis tweets out Happy MLK Day, and with a picture of Martin Luther King at the March on Washington, and the quote is, I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, every hill, mountain should be made low, the rough places will be made plain, the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is what this seasonless racist tweeted out on MLK Day. As governor of a state where it's illegal to teach about MLK in public schools. And then 3 days later, banned teaching advanced placement African American history. Wild. 413-736-2781. 413-736-2781. Let's get Scott up in the Twitter space. All right, Scott, holler at your boy. You got the microphone. Scott just fell off. All right, put your request back in. 413-736-2781. Like I said, you can't make this stuff up. You can't make it up. It's a war on truth. It's, I don't care what term you use. I don't care if you use wokeness. I don't care if you use CRT. I don't care, what term you use. What you're really saying is you want to ban teaching the truth of American history. Because that's what it is. Teaching the truth of American history. It's not about wokeness gone run amok. Teaching that Europeans came here and slaughtered indigenous people is not CRT. That's American history. Teaching that they purposely spread disease so they could wipe out indigenous people, steal their land, that's not CRT. That's American history. Good morning, caller. All right, callers jumping off too. That's American history. Teaching that Europeans orchestrated a transatlantic slave trade to steal black people from Africa and to enslave them throughout South America, the Caribbean, and North America is not CRT. It's history. To teach about the enslavement of African people and indigenous black people in North America, it's not CRT. That's just good old fashioned American history. I don't understand why people don't know the difference between the two. That's American history. It's not wokeness, it's just American history. Scott, you're in the Twitter space.
Hello, Bishop.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What's on your mind?
Now I find you 100% accurate.
All right.
All right now. But it's like Martin Luther King, like that monument that they put up, I'm from Australia. It's disgraceful. And I still understand that racism is still happening in America right now. And, Bishop, what bishop are you?
It's happening in Australia too, you know that, right?
Yeah? Tell me more.
Huh? Well, you already know.
Tell me more.
Yeah, I don't have time to give you a history of racism in Australia, but yeah, there's a whole lot of anti-blackness among Australian people too. So read a book, learn about it. I can't teach you about it right now. Not in this Twitter space. I'm sorry. No, I can't. I don't have that kind of time. Maybe on another occasion, we can holler about that. All right, Asante, you're in the space. Unmute your mic.
Hi, Bishop. How are you?
I'm good. You?
Yeah, I'm fine. So I'm obviously in the UK, but may as well be in America because we seem to import everything that's good, but also bad about the Americas. The woke is now being used as a pejorative, and people are scared. If you are a political person and you say, well, you're woke, they start stuttering. And they say, no, I'm not. How dare you call me woke? As though it's a swear word. They should be happy and say, yeah, I am woke.
Mm-hmm.
I'm aware of injustice and hatred, and I want the world to be more tolerant. But we seem to be, at the moment, the narrative, as you quite rightly said, this reverse racism narrative. And, you know, I've seen a lot of the, you know, people calling you racist because you call out racist. No one likes to have a mirror put up in front of them. They hate it. You put a mirror up in front of somebody, and then they're going to basically, they are going to attack you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same thing that's happening in the UK, and not just the UK, also Europe. You know, I go to France a lot for work, and in France, they are even worse. I mean, it's pretty horrific. I would hate to live in France. You know, I live in London in the UK. I am black. My parents come from Jamaica and Cuba. And my dad, it's funny, my dad left Jamaica at the age of 20 in 1956. And he went to work in America, in Florida, for 4 years. And, you know, he tells me this all the time. It was the worst 4 years of his life. In 1956 in Florida. Because it was the first time he realized that he was a black man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can imagine 1956 in the South. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And he went back to Jamaica, but he came to the UK. But, you know, we are, you know, we and a lot of the, everything, you know, a lot of the alt-right, the narrative, you know, you are racist because you are citing racism. And, you know, it's always, you know, you are, I mean, one of the big ones is that you're a race baiter. And I say,
man, if I got $5 for every time I was called a race baiter or a race hustler, I'd go to the Caribbean and buy an island and just retire.
Absolutely. I mean, there's race baiting, but the funny thing is I don't realize that bait is used to catch. It doesn't create.
Mm-hmm.
So if I use bait to catch a fish, well, the fish is the idiot who's basically gone to the bait, right? But it was a fish.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, race baiter is, it's a ridiculous. You know,
well, you know, I always tell them, whenever somebody calls me a race baiter, if I feel like clapping back at them, I say, well, if I'm a race baiter and you took the bait, that makes you the racist.
Exactly. But, you know, it's, I just want to just, you know, say to you, you know, I've seen the hate you get. I've seen the heat you get. And I'm just glad that we have people like you who are proud to stand up and just be honest. And they may hate you for it, and let them hate you. But, you know, you're not alone. We are all here, and we all need to do our best just to shine that mirror and show them who they are.
All right. Appreciate you, bro.
No worries.
Take care. 413-736-2781 for those of you who are here in the Valley or listening to us over the radio. If you want to chime in on the conversation. Let me get Metatron up in the space. Metatron, you got the microphone. Holler at me. You there, Metatron? Well, let me go to the phone. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm good. You? I'm good. You?
It's a blessing to hear you. You know, I remember growing up here, we marched to get Black History in 1972, I think it was. We all marched out of school to get Black History Month. And I remember in the 60s when we had one book with Black History in it. And the only thing they had in it was Frederick Douglass, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think his picture is white.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time. You know that America has a habit of turning some of our historical figures into white folks. Just watch the Ten Commandments.
Right. The Ten Commandments is another one. You know, I remember in school when we had one book for Black History Month and we only read it one time. I think we had Black History for 2 days or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Black History Month used to be Black History Week.
Black History Week, yes. Yep. And I remember that we had one book we read. And they made sure you didn't read the whole book. I think we read it one day.
Absolutely. Appreciate your call, brother.
All right. Yeah, thank you.
413-736-2781. It's the number here. I got about 8 minutes, y'all. This hour goes by really quickly. Remember, check me out on Monday. I'll be back on the spoken word on Monday at 9 o'clock a.m. So we'll be able to talk a little bit more. Let me get Rashid Savage up in the space. Rashid, you got the microphone.
Hey, Bishop, how are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm just thinking about what you're saying. And, I read a lot of history. So I just, the idea to ban African-American history in schools only further the underlying attacks that white supremacy have towards us.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it does.
Yeah. It's a continuation of the status quo. And see, here's their fear. Their fear is when you teach the truth about American history, you're giving knowledge and information to impressionable young minds who can make a decision about how they're going to move in the world. And they can decide that the way they're going to move in the world is against the status quo, the maintaining of systemic racism and white supremacy. And the thing that they don't want is for young impressionable white kids to grow up saying, I'm not going to move in the same way as my parents and grandparents moved. So they want to get rid of it so that the status quo can be maintained.
Bishop, I have two questions for you right now. Why aren't there other bishops like you speaking so out front in the open as you are speaking? And the other question is, it's not a question. It's something I came across the other day in regards to dealing with the young man Clarence Moses Hill, the one, and I'm sure you're probably familiar with his case. He was the black man that was found guilty due to a white woman having a dream about him raping her.
Yeah. Well, let me appreciate you, brother. Let me try to answer it, the best I can. First of all, I want you to know there are, and caller, just hold the line, caller. I'll be right with you. There are other preachers that are out there that are speaking very forthrightly against white supremacy. And are very active in terms of promulgating and preaching a liberation theology, a woke theology, if you want to use that term instead. Just check them out. And I get your point, because there are too few, and I will definitely agree with you there. There are too few, but there are some fellas that are lifting their voices. I mean, you got your Mike McBride, you got your Freddie Hayneses. I mean, there are a slew of good brothers, the preachers that are out there sounding the alarm and preaching the right message. So we just have to figure out how to connect with those individuals. And as far as that white woman goes, black men have been railroaded by false accusations by white women for time immemorial. Right now in America, while they're still convicting Nazi criminals in Germany, they just jailed a 97-year-old woman for being the secretary at a Nazi death camp. Yet, we got Carolyn Bryant, the woman who lied on Emmett Till, caused him to be lynched, and then lied on the witness stand to get his murderers off, who admitted that she lied. And both the state of Mississippi and the federal government, Merrick Garland, the Attorney General under a Democrat President, Joe Biden, have refused to indict Carolyn Bryant for her role in the murder of Emmett Till. So white women have been getting away with causing the lynching, execution, and false imprisonment of black men forever. And I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Bishop. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. I wanted to comment on the fact of a few years ago, there was a history book company that had basically rewrote history. And if it wasn't for a black mother who was going over her child's homework with him, it would have never been discovered.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm familiar with that. That's just a mild case because white folks have been rewriting history and falsifying history since they've been writing history. There's a saying, the story of the hunt changes when it's told from the perspective of the lion. And we have a saying, history is exactly that, his story. And which is the reason why we have to teach our children our history. Now, while I think it's a travesty that they're trying to ban African American history from schools in Florida and beyond, I also think it's a travesty when black parents won't teach black history in the home, because that's where I learned it and that's where my children learned it.
Mine too, and my grandkids are learning it right now here in our home. I live in the Carolinas, so we have access to a lot of historical things that occurred during enslavement. My grandkids come here every summer, and we take them to these historical sites and explain what's going on to them. They're 8 and 12 now. But this was the year we decided to introduce Black history and the real to them.
Absolutely. And I think that's absolutely necessary.
Pardon?
I said I think that's absolutely necessary.
It most definitely is, because it's surprising how many kids and teenagers don't know the history.
Yeah, and that's our remedy for them trying to remove it from schools. I gotta move on. You're the last caller of the day. Good morning. Yep, maybe I can't get. All right, caller, you're the last one of the day. Good morning. Going once, going twice.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
All right.
You got to make it quick though.
Okay. I'm gonna say white, black, and all that. I'm gonna say they. Not to use pronoun adjectives as watered down society things, but they've been teaching us everything, especially our children. But history. I'm not gonna say our history, because our history is their history. They just denounce it. They've been teaching us everything but real history. But going back to the days when they distorted the Bible into the slaves, teaching them how to master. They used God as the master to describe them, and to have the slave, just bow down to him, and using the biblical text to distort the slave's mind. I think like that. Anyway, so now they're using that same tactics on their own people, which is so just distorted in itself.
Well, they want their people as well as our people to believe whatever narrative they want to give them. Unfortunately, I'm out of time. We can go on and on to the break of dawn. I see the rest of y'all in Twitter space. Hit me up on Monday. I'll be back on Monday on the spoken word. Got to move out your way. Y'all blowing up the phone lines at the end of the show, like always. Y'all need to wake up and get your coffee a little earlier and be alert a little earlier, and then y'all can call in and we can have a conversation. Y'all start calling at 10 o'clock. Stop it. All right, I'm out your way. Miss D is coming up next, so stay tuned. for some good jazz music that'll continue to keep you throughout your day. Until the next time I talk to you and you talk to me, always remember God loves you, and so do I. I'm out. Peace.
I don't know why they just don't give you another hour.
Listen.